They're calling it CARES Act 2. It's a brand new stimulus program that's going to put supposedly $2,000 per month in the pocket of every single adult over the age of 16 and an extra $500 per month for every single child. So today we're going to break it down and go over all of the details, the pros and cons, the ins and outs, and talk about how we think this program might work, who qualifies for it, and what still needs to happen before you can get that cash in your pocket. All right, guys, CARES Act 2 on the other side of the break. All right, guys, so it's Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. And while some of you are wondering where your original $1,200 stimulus check is, there are plans already in place to put out an additional stimulus program that they're already calling CARES Act 2. And this program is designed to get $2,000 per month in the hands of every single American for at least 6 months, but maybe even 12 months or potentially even longer. So the bill, which is now called the Emergency Money for the People Act, is sponsored by Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna out of California and Tim Ryan out of Ohio. Khanna has said that a one-time $1,200 check isn't going to cut it. Americans need sustained cash infusions for the duration of this crisis in order to come out on the other side alive, healthy, and ready to go back to work. This bill is designed to put $2,000 per month to Americans who have been impacted by COVID-19. If passed by Congress, the federal government would continue monthly cash payments to eligible Americans until employment returns to its pre-COVID-19 levels, right? That's what he said. Now, what I take away from that is if you want to shut down people's businesses, and if you truly want people to remain at home and not try to, go back to work and reopen the country and reopen their businesses and things like that, then you got to pay, right? If you want people to stay at home, then you have to provide an alternate source of financing and funding so that people can pay for the essentials in life. So here are the details. The Emergency Money for the People Act is part of an overall package, an overall stimulus package that they've already started to call CARES Act 2. It will work like this. So it will be $2,000 payments for each and every eligible American. And they're going to get $2,000 per month guaranteed for at least 6 months, but could potentially go on for another 12 months if certain employment thresholds are not met. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The program also provides for $500 per month for each child, up to $1,500. So up to 3 children. So $500 per month, up to 3 kids for $1,500. These will be monthly cash payments, right? So we're not talking about a one-time deal like the $1,200 stimulus. We're talking about an ongoing program to continue to put money in folks' pockets every single month. And it would those payments would continue to go on or go out as long as the employment to population ratio is greater than 60%. I'm reading from the language of the bill here because this is still pretty new. This is not considered to be income, which is an awesome thing, right? And we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. And there is supposedly no impact to other benefits like SSI or SSDI or Social Security, etc. So these monthly payments would not adversely impact anyone's ability to qualify for an income-based federal or state assistance program. Awesome, right? So if you're on something like SNAP or something like that, then receiving money under a program like this would not impact your ability to continue to receive that assistance, okay? So who will qualify? Now, compared to the CARES Act, the Emergency Money for the People Act would provide financial support to more Americans, to a larger group of people. So a larger pool of people will be qualified. Why? There are several reasons, including monthly payments, higher income limits, an expanded definition of what is a dependent. That's awesome. And who would get monthly cash payments under this proposed legislation. Let's talk about that. Who would actually get payments under this proposed legislation? Now, that's the other thing to keep in mind. This is proposed legislation. It's not actually been passed, but it's still in the consideration stage, and we'll talk about that later on in the video as well. So, income and age requirements. So, under this new act, every American adult age 16 and older who earns less than $130,000 adjusted gross income, not your gross salary, your adjusted gross salary or your AGI, would qualify to receive $2,000 per month. That includes most people, right? That means most people would qualify. And that includes if you had no earnings or you are unemployed. That's awesome, right? Because a lot of folks don't have any earnings right now, but maybe you did last year or the year before. Married couples. Married couples earning less than $260,000 would receive at least $4,000 per month. Dependents. Qualifying families with children will receive an additional $500 per month for up to 3 children. So there's a cap at 3 kids, right? So what that means is if you have 2 kids, you're talking about $1,000. 3 kids, 1,500. 4 kids, still 1,500 because there's a cap at 3 children or $1,500, right? High school and college children. High school students, college students, and adults with disabilities who are claimed as a dependent would be eligible under this particular program. The individual would receive the monthly payment and their parent or guardian would receive a dependent credit. Paychecks. If you were not eligible for a stimulus check based on your 2018 or 2019 tax return, you can still be eligible if you submit at least 2 consecutive months of paychecks to verify your income. So what does that mean? That means that if you made too much money last year, 2019, or potentially too much money the year before in 2018, and you didn't qualify because of that for the $1,200 stimulus program that's going on now, under this proposed program, you could still qualify if you can submit 2 months worth of documentation to prove that you qualify income-wise currently under this proposed program, which is awesome. As I mentioned earlier, these monthly payments are not taxable and are not included as gross income. And speaking of taxes, if you owe back taxes to the IRS or to the state, I want you to download my free book, End the Tax Nightmare, Insider Secrets to Beat the IRS and Reduce Your Tax Debt. When I say free, my free ebook, I mean it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay any money for it. All you have to do is go to endthetaxnightmare.com, plug in your email address, plug in your name, and bam, I'm going to send you a link so that you can download the book for free. Inside the book, I'm going to teach you how you can set up a payment plan that you want and not the one that the IRS wants. I'm going to teach you how you can get rid of liens, levies, and garnishments so you can get the IRS out of your life. And I'm going to teach you how you can potentially settle your tax liability for less than you actually owe. I want you to head on over to endthetaxnightmare.com, link in the description below. You can download the book absolutely for free, no cost, no shipping, nothing like that. Endthetaxnightmare.com and download your free book. Okay, now, so let's give some payment examples so we can see how this new program would work. So let's assume that a single income tax filer has $100,000 of adjusted gross income. Okay, your AGI is below 100 grand, you're a single filer. Let's assume also that a married filer has $200,000 of annual adjusted gross income. So here are a few examples. The single filer with no kids is going to get $2,000 a month. The single filer with 2 kids would get $3,000 a month under this proposed legislation. A married filer with no children is going to get $4,000 per month. Married filer with 3 children, we're talking about $5,500 per month. Married filer with 5 kids, we're talking about $5,500 per month. The reason for that, as I expressed earlier, there's a cap of $1,500 or 3 children. So even if you have more than 3 children, the cap is still there at $1,500. Let's talk about distribution under this particular program. One of the problems that we have with the current stimulus, the current $1,200 stimulus program that's out there, is that the government is having a difficult time getting these checks, actually getting them out the door and getting them sent out to people. So people are having a difficult time receiving the checks. So some folks are getting paper checks. Some folks are supposed to download checks. Some folks haven't gotten the check at all, and they don't quite know why. In some instances, the banks are taking the check. We did previously did a video on who's stealing your stimulus check, and in a lot of instances, it's the banks. That's crazy, but it's actually happening. So there's talk in this particular program that they might set up a interesting way to distribute these payments. And I kid you not, the interesting way that they're proposing to distribute this new $2,000 per month stimulus program payments is by using your PayPal, your Venmo, your Zelle, or your Cash App. That's right. The government's going to hit everybody on the Cash App. And I can't even imagine Donald Trump even having my Cash App, much less, Cash Apping me and sending me $2,000 a month, or heck, in the case of my family, $5,000 per month. That's absolute insanity. But that's just one of the proposals that's on the table. I'm not saying it's actually going to be that way, that they're actually going to do Cash App, because that just seems, that's just out there. But that's one of the proposals that's actually on the table right now. What do you guys think about that? Should they allow that? Should they send people money on Cash App and PayPal and Zelle? Do y'all think that's a good idea? You guys tell me in the comments below whether you think that's a good idea, or should they just scrap that one and stick with direct deposits and paper checks? Or should they use Cash App? Should they use Zelle? Should they use PayPal? One of those, Venmo. What about Venmo? Should they use Venmo? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so that's the world we actually live in, right? Where that's even a serious consideration. But is this going to actually happen? That's the big question. Will this actually happen, or is it just a bunch of talk? Well, we're somewhere in between. We're not quite to the point yet where I think any reasonable person would say, yes, this is for sure going to happen. But we're well past the point where this is just talk, okay? So right now it is just a proposal, but some of the statements made by the administration and by members of Congress indicate that it's something that is actually being seriously considered, and some of the highest level folks in our country are actually considering this proposal as being something that they would really do. For example, the president likes to tweet. He loves his Twitter. So on April 21st, Donald Trump tweeted, I'm going to just read the quote here: "I urge the Senate and the House to pass the PPP. After I sign the bill, we will begin discussions on our next legislative initiatives with fiscal relief to state and local governments for lost revenue, much needed infrastructure investments for bridges, tunnels, broadband, tax incentives for restaurants, for entertainment, sports and payroll, tax cuts to increase economic growth." So we don't hear anything from him in this tweet about, receiving direct payments or receiving $2,000 a month checks. But the reason I put that in there, the reason I've included that quote for you guys to see, is because it indicates where the thinking is. The thinking is not that the stimulus is done. We've done, the CARES Act, and then they recently just did the 3.5, the interim bill to refund the CARES Act. It's not over. The thinking is not that they're done with it, right? On Monday, April the 6th, during a White House briefing, the president was asked about doing an initial round of stimulus payments with direct payments to individuals, which is what we're talking about here today, direct payments. And his response was, a second round of cash payments to Americans is part of the discussion. We could very well do a second round. It's absolutely under serious considerations, right? Now, the president's statements are, it's kind of hard to pin him down on something. But at least this is what he's saying, so it indicates that that's kind of where, at least where his thinking was at the time that those statements were made. And analysts, Wall Street analysts, are predicting that the next stimulus will be at least $1 trillion plan. It seems to be that it will be significantly larger than $1 trillion, but Wall Street seems to be banking on the fact that it'll be at least $1 trillion. Now, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has also been talking about more direct payments to Americans. She told the House Democrats on a conference call this past Monday, according to Politico, that as soon as it passed in the House, we will advance the CARES Act 2, which must be transformative and far-reaching. So there we have language already about CARES Act 2. We also have other statements by other congressmen like Emanuel Cleaver, who said, quote, "Families and workers have been crushed by the consequences of the coronavirus pandemic, and we need to ensure that they can maintain a roof over their head, food on the table, until this crisis subsides. The best way to do that is by direct payments to those who have been devastated by the virus." Finally, we have this letter on April 9th from 60 members of the House and 2 members of the Senate. Right out of the gate, you see the letter right out of the gate, they write, "We write to ask you to center those most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic by prioritizing recurrent direct cash assistance," very important language, "to all as part of a fourth coronavirus response bill." The fourth response bill, we're talking about CARES Act 2 here. Providing recurrent monthly payments is the most effective mechanism for delivering economic relief to those most at risk in this crisis. So again, they're talking about, recurring monthly payments, direct payments as part of a new CARES Act. The letter goes on to state that providing recurring payments to everyone in America would help to cushion the blow of this global health crisis. We need more money in their pockets, and monthly payments to workers and families is the fastest and most direct way to address this. So again, they're talking about, putting some money in your pocket. It doesn't quite say $2,000 right there in that language, but it's pretty clear what folks are thinking, or at least what they're actually saying. So it looks like CARES Act 2, or some version of a direct payment stimulus program, is coming. The administration seems to be in the mood to make it rain, right? They're in the mood to cut a check. The House of Representatives, they already have their checkbook out, right? So it seems like that's the case. Wall Street seems to think it's coming. What could possibly go wrong, right? What could get in the way? So here we have, what could happen? This guy, right? Senator Mitch McConnell is basically saying, nah, not so fast. He made it clear that lawmakers will not pass phase 4, which is what the CARES Act 2 will be considered phase 4 of the stimulus program. He made it clear that they wouldn't pass a phase 4 until Congress comes back. So it wouldn't be done by unanimous agreement like they've been doing with some of these other discussions. But they would have to wait until the full Senate reconvene. The problem with that is there's talk that maybe Congress should not physically reconvene in person anymore because it's dangerous for them all to be together. There's the ongoing threat of passing the virus amongst all the other members of Congress, House and Senate, that if they're all physically in the chamber at the same time. But that seems to be exactly what Mitch McConnell said would have to happen before the Senate took up the vote. So there's that. So in short, I know this sounds like a great plan, but hey, just my point of view, don't hold your breath, okay? You see, the first stimulus package cost us, basically $500 billion for the first, the last stimulus package that we just passed, not the first one, the last one. This package, I think, could be over $4 trillion. That's just an unbelievable amount of money, but that would be to fund it for only 6 months, let alone a year. So based on that, I don't really see it happening the way it's currently proposed, or at least not in the amount that is currently proposed. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying that I don't necessarily see it happening that way. I think it's more likely that we would see a month-to-month sort of proposition, right? Where they start off funding it. Maybe they fund it for, a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months. And then after that, they have to reallocate money every single month. So in other words, if things aren't progressing this month, then we'll fund it next month. If things aren't getting any better this month, then we'll fund it again for next month. And then the next month, if it's not any better, they'll fund it again. And sort of continually kick the can down the road. And one of the reasons I think that, in addition to the plan being, just absolutely humongous, is that seems to be the way that this administration is handling this pandemic really in general, right? They start off by saying, we're going to close things down for 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks after that. And then you look at the prior stimulus plans that they've put together, 400 billion, and then we'll have to re-up it again for another 400 billion when it seems that money has run out. So it seems like they're not really of the mindset to do something grand and big in one fell swoop, but rather to fund it in pieces and just do it for a month to month sort of deal. I could see that passing a little easier, and I think that would be a little bit more likely. All right, guys. So that's it for today. I just wanted to sort of discuss that. CARES Act 2. That's a big deal that's coming down the pike. Hopefully it happens, but we'll have to hold our breath or I guess don't hold your breath and see if it comes to pass. Okay. So that's it for this week. Hey, look, while you're still here, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That would be really helpful to me. It takes a lot of time and effort to put these videos together. It'd be really cool if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that like button to let the YouTube algorithm know that you like this type of content. That would be awesome too. And if you're not following us, hey man, follow us across all of the social channels. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at Ice Cold Tax Pro, and that'd be awesome. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Talk to you next time. Bye bye.